こえます？あ、やべえ。録画の設定をしなきゃ。録画しようと思ってまして、設定。あ、今録画始まっちゃってるからあれかもしんね。音声トラック1に、音声、これ、ちょっとゲーム画面消します。あ、いや、消さなくても。えーっローカル違う。うん、やっぱこれだよね。なんだっけ、どっかで確か録画を配信、なんだっけ、配信画面とは別に録画ができるっていうのがあったと思うんだけど、ね、結局一緒か。ど どうやってやったっけ。なんかシーンごとに録画とできなかったっけ。覚えてないや。いや、多分録画音声自体はあれになってるはずだし、ちょっとじゃあメイン見て、字幕かぶってる。下がりすぎた。あれかぶってんじゃん。微妙にかぶってんね。どうじゃい。多分大丈夫じゃい。マイク。オッケーかな。よし、やってこ。よろしくお願いします。ナウローディングが消します。いいや、その前にツイートしちゃおう。なんか余計にエンタに押しちゃったよ。いいよ、知らない。ツイッチ。リンクのツイートできなくなってる。あれ、ダッシュボードツイートした？それはまずいのでは。配信のツイートどうやってやったっけ。 まあいやわかんねえ。ツイッチの方はツイートしない。よし、じゃあ行きましょうやりましょう。よろしくお願いします。これでいいのかな。あ、なんか忘れちゃった。マイクプロパティ。ああ、なるほどね。あれ、なんか出し忘れてる気がする。まあいっか、気づくでしょ後で。よし、じゃあやっていきます。遅くなりました。9時50分、もうほぼ10時だね。現在の時刻を入力してくださいとあるので、9時、違う、9時51分。いや、じゃあ52分に合わせよう。あと10秒くらい多分。違う？あれ、この時計秒針ないやん。あったわ。40、あと20秒ぐらい。20秒ぐらい待ちましょう。15秒です。残り10秒です。コントローラーが。あ、そうだ、コントローラーで動かせるんだ。ちゃう。OK。待って。始める前にちょっと一言いいですか？ゲームを起動した時に2回ともちゃんと時計を設定してくれてありがとうございます。ほとんどの人はこのステップを真剣に捉えないんです。彼らはただ12時のままにして切り上げてしまうのです。でもあなたは実際に時計を合わせてくれましたし、私はそれに感謝してるんです。そう言ってあなたがこの体験を大切にしてちゃんと注意を払ってくれてるってことだと思うんですよ。ごめんね。1回目を配信外でやってるそれ。は？はい。意味ないんかい。やられたんだけど。すごいな。ちゃんとゲームあれあるんだとか思ったのに。はあ。これ。ちょっと失礼。音がそっちから出てる。OK。セッティング。なるほど。カメラ感度とかはわかんねえや。とりあえずこれでやってみます。よろしくお願いします。やべえ。
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
待って。録画してなかった。もう一度始める。おい。ゲームを始める。
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day, every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job.
やばい、なんか音入ってる。
Stanley was happy.
飲み物飲む音入っちゃってるこれ。
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley.
入ってる。
Something he would never quite forget.
あ、やべ、振動が
He
入っ
had
て
been
る。
at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
おー。カメラ感度もうちょっと下げていいね。最低でいいよ。0はダメでしょ。1でいいよ。あ、遅っ。さすがに遅い。じゃあ3。あ、これぐらいでいいね。なんかブラ入ってるもん。なんか、あれがやだな。垂直動機をなくせばいいのかな。あ、違う。単純に、あれかも。グラフィックがダメ。あれ、私の PC と合ってないだけかもしれない。まあいいや。行こう。操作がわかんない。コップ拾えるこれ。いいや。外出よう。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
会議室に向かうことにしたらしい。本当に？これどうやって触るの？セッティング、コントロール。しゃがむがトリガー、ポーズ、インタラクトが A ボタン。見る、動く。会員コントロール。あ。どうした？
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
はい、見つかりませんでした。まあいいや、先に質問。インタラクトってできないのか。できるやつはなんか分かるのかな。なんて書いてあるこれ。Awaiting Input かな。まあいいや、進もう。はい。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
じゃあ入ろう。絵ですね。こう開きます？開かない。ああ、ちゃんと鳴ってるからインタラクトできてるの。あ、閉めちゃった。あ、開いた。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
はい。 これどっからプロジェクトしてんの？あったわ、プロジェクター。あ、ちゃんと切り替わるとき光消えてんね。あ、しゃがめた。画面揺れに注意です。ここって。
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
ここってさ、やめよう、ネタバレは。一応ね、私あれなんですよ。プレイ動画を見たことがありまして。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
言う通りにやっていこうかなって思うわけですよ。バスルーム。Because the boss knows that what the boss says goes if the boss is わかんない。トイレさせてください。漏れそうです。バスルームなのにシャワーねえじゃん。バスルームなのにシャワーないと思うんですけど、この部屋おかしいよ。あ、いた。パンダ。エレベーター来た。エレベーター来るんだ。いいや、とりあえず上司の部屋行こうかな。だってここあれでしょ？
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
8.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. 2845.
いや、8888888。
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
その物語ともに地獄落ちちゃった。知らん。あれこれ8を押すゲームじゃないんですか？私がやったデモ版は8を押し続けるゲームがあって、それすごい楽しかったのを覚えてるんですけど、このボタンおかしいよ。8って言ってくれないの？何それ、許せねー。ちょっと開発者に問い合わせようじゃん。8というゲームはどうなったんですかって。多分この辺が8でしょ。いやー、今この状態に お、押せないけど8は押せる。やっぱ8押すゲームじゃんこれ。押せるやんけ。なんやなめとんかわれ。2、8、4、5。なんか開いた。あ、押せんくなってもうた。やっちまった。行くしかないか。なんもないわ。え、落ちちゃうじゃん。死んじゃうよ。あ、落ちなかったわ。いや、足場あるんかい。これ見えないよね。真っ暗だよ。上下上を押したつもりだったんだけどな。上行けないな。仕方ないか。ローディングね。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
ジラを取り戻したみたいな感じ。あ、なに
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape.
Although this passageway had the word, but of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for. Nope, still on board with death?
もう喋ってくれない？じゃあいいよ。行こうか。何見てんだよ。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
472番、あれかな？サリーのオフィスってあんなだっけ？この真ん中のやつね。まあいいや。進もう。何これ？
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life, for he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
はい。どこでオフにするんでしょう。ファクトリーパワー？ここ？これは？あれ ?5 じゃんこれ。偽物じゃん。騙した？はあ、許せねえ。8はどこだよ、8は。3だよ、これ。ってことは他にもあるね。1、2、4がなくない？あそこにある。わかんない。とりあえず5から押してみる。12345なのか54321なのかどっちなんだろう。登れない？登れないだと。じゃあ1から押してみるか。3はここの裏じゃなかったっけ？で4あれでしょ。進めない。ダメみたいですね。5だけ押す。マインドコントロールズなんていうのあれ。ウェイティングインプット。
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. but I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge, it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't.
Bye.
Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Bam. バイバイしちゃった。あ、お前427やんけ。472じゃねえじゃねえっけ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
電源ついたパソコンは消せるんだ。全部消してこうぜ、じゃあ。インプット、何？インプットレシーブ。あったらついてるパソコン。どう？消える気？消えないの気？開く？なんか番号の書いてない部屋見ると開くのかなって思っちゃう。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
いいよ、左側行こう。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
下行ってみようか。車あるじゃん。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Okay. 目が覚めたらそこはさっき
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
見捨てちゃったよ。おい、マリエラ、見捨てるな。また始まった。私はスタンリー。指示が送られてこない。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
ちゃんと話を聞いてからじゃないといけない気がする。今度は普通に道なりに進んでみようか。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Oh no, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
2回目入ったらなんか言われたんだけど。なんでお前ここに私が2回入ったこと知ってんだよ。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Oh, なんか変わってんじゃん。読めないけど変わってんじゃん。読めないけど。意味のないことって繰り返したくなるよね。こっち行ってみるか。上行きをしたらどうなる？なんか陽気な音楽が流れてきた。開かないんだけど。着いた。 本当に着いた？これただ音楽鳴る箱じゃねえかよ。あ、ボタン押したら出られないのか。あ、いいよもう。進むよ先に。それでいいんでしょ。お前だろどうせ悪いのは。許せねえ。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2, 8, 4, 5.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Whoops. Nope. Never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out. Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have. An incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow.
Wow.
I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
8は1回しか言ってくれないのか。
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
確かに。なんでこんな同じこと繰り返してんだろうこの人。よくわかんないね。よくわかんないからもう一回やろう。
Did you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple with what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me.
さあ が待ってるのかな。君などいかだ見たことがあるような。そしてここは上司のオフィスだ。
It's the boss's office. This absolutely changes everything for me. Give me a time out here for a minute while I process
いいよ、
this.
じゃあ8ってよし。なるほど。
Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace this stunning revelation and to move forward with... No! No, wait! No! I need more time to
じゃ
process.
あまた8って押してる。長いな。あ、終
All
わった
right. I have fully come to terms with it. I have made space in my worldview for this astonishing new reality. As before, I turn to your expert eye for gripping
Right.
narrative, Master Stanley.
知ってます？8っていうボタンを押すだけのゲーム、そんな素晴らしいゲームがこの世界にはあるんですよ。皆さん知ってます？はい、8のボタンを押すと8って言うんですよ。すごくないですか？そんなゲームがなんと今なら無料で遊べるんです。すごいですよね。このゲームは8を押しても8って言わないのでクソゲーです。帰ろう。さあ、私はどこから来たんだったっけ？ああ、ここだここだ。
Of course. Going back down in the elevator. How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelatory Stanley's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling that has grown stale and repetitive.
はい、よくわかんない。難しいこと言ってるけどよくわかんないです。なので戻ります。さあ次は、
You know what? I've just thought of something. Hold on, let's stop.
なんで止めるんですか？
Don't you realize? It's the anticipation, Stanley. You and I, we have no way of knowing what will be at the top of this elevator. But the suspense, the agony of waiting and anticipating and having to guess, that's the real thrill.
はい、スリル。
Oh, I simply don't want to let that feeling go. It's so precious, so fleeting. Why don't we take this elevator ride nice and slow?
スローリー、スローリー。
There we go. Isn't this so much more exciting? You know, Stanley, it seems like nowadays the only thing that audiences want is to be shocked as loudly and frequently as possible. They want big, explosive moments flung right in their faces from the very moment that things get started. But where's the tension? Where's the trust in the audience to build a slow and nuanced appreciation for the story, the characters? Why aren't we given time to imagine the surprises? To have to think and to anticipate and then to marvel at the eventual reveal. This is storytelling, Stanley. What you and I are doing right now. This is the most exciting narrative to be developed in years. And it's really all because of you. You're the one who took this bold step of revisiting the exact same locations over and over. Truly, I mean it. This is unique and different. It's not like anything else out there. You see, I want stories that surprise me, Stanley. I want to have to think. I want to be engaged and not pandered to. We're being fed such unimaginative drivel all the time, and we all know it, which is why we're so starved for content that makes us feel sharp and vital and alive. That's why people like you so much, Stanley. Because you're not afraid to spit in the face of tradition. You're a role model, you know? People look up to you. Which is why... Oh, I didn't know when to spring this on you, but, well, I've gathered a little press conference for you, so that you can talk about your work and your storytelling and your life. Yes, I know you're not much for the public eye, but I thought it would especially mean a lot to the people who have been following you from the beginning. They really look up to you, Stanley. I don't know if you realize the impact you have on them. This is the kind of gesture that might leave a tremendous impact on them for the better. Oh good, we're here.
落ち着きました。どこここ。ちょっと上司の部屋行きたかったのに違うとこ連れてこられたんですけど、帰れないんですか？帰らせてください。なんか。
Okay, the room where we're holding the press conference should be just around the corner here somewhere.
角を曲がったところ。World's Healthiest Human Being All Tricks Rival わかんない。How we did it The ピラミッドThe guy who went to Mars 火星 Live on stage All eyes on Stanley スタンリーってこんな顔してるんだ。へー。今から私の記者会見が始まります。一体何についての記者会見なんでしょう。
Yes. Here it is, just through this door.
ここですか？開かないっすよ。ステージドア、そっち？こっちじゃないの？開かない、このドア。こっちにも進めない？ダメみたい。
All right, are you ready? I've told them you're going to speak a little bit about the nature of surprise in storytelling and what it means to craft a truly unpredictable narrative. Oh, don't worry, you'll do great. Just be yourself and speak from the heart. I'm really proud of you, Stanley. Okay, it looks like they're ready for you. Go get them.
なんか危ないよってマーク見えたよ。ピッツァタイム。暗いんだけど怖いんですけど。わー耳キーンなるわ。終わったやんけ。
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
閉じられてんだけどねえ、物置閉じられてんだけど、なんで物置入らせてよ。日課でしょ、やらなきゃいけないことでしょ。なんでそれをさせてくれないの。はあ、許せねえ。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
許 許せねえよ。
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs, the guttural retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Here on the floor he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Was it a sign of hope for Stanley's future? Alas, it was not. For although this keypad guarded the terrible secret of Stanley's past, it had been assigned a 4-digit code so devious and so random that no man could ever hope to guess it. 2845. Statistically, nearly impossible to guess blindly, ever.
8888
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Two
やっぱマイクは振動
845.
音拾っちゃってるな。置く場所変えるか。
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
らいこっちゃ。もういいよ、じゃあ8をさせてくれないんだったら行くよ。エレベーターで定規するとまた記者会見連れて行かれるんでしょう。じゃあ行くよ。いいよいいよ。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
ぴょん。
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
めっちゃんこだ。
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated, as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Wow. 死んでないが。生きてるんだか？ The Stanley Parable.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
後ろに下がれなかったです。すすす。 くる。足遅いね。走れないのかね、君。ここはどこだい？
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance,
はい。
death becomes meaningless, making life the same.
はい。
Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
スタンリーのパソコン。オフィスレイアウト。この青写真ではゲーム開始のオフィスの様子が見られます。これはスタンリーのオフィスから2つのドアまでの経路でこのゲームで設計された最初の部分です。開発の最中、追加変更されましたが、核となるレイアウトは最初のものとほぼ同じです。スタンリーの部屋、パソコンあるところ、パソコンあるところで2つの廊下。この冒頭部分のテンポが重要で、この廊下を動かしたり変更したりして、プレイヤーがいいタイミングで2つのドアへたどり着くようにしています。へー。2つのドア。この2つのドアというセットがかなり初期の段階で、ザ・スタンリー・パラブルのデザインの具体的なもの一つとなりました。この部屋を作ることで、この延長線上にゲームの内容が現れ、この部屋がもたらす矛盾を探っていくことになりました。飛ぶ棚？飛ぶ棚？飛ぶ棚ってどういうことよ。オフィスのパソコン。切っといたよ。そう、Google Pixel ならね。オフィス。ボタンの音。このゲームを通してボタンを押したときに使われたサウンドセレクションです。各サウンドはシンセサイザーの音色とキーボードのストロークをミックスして作られています。モデルデザイン。クレジットですね。この素晴らしいゲームを作ってくれた方々です。右と左があって、右は何もなさそうに見えるから右行きましょう。オフィスの時計。動いてるね。10時52分。お前、時間ちゃんと合わせたら時間合わせてくれてるじゃねえか。何が意味ねえだよ。嘘つきやがってよ。上司のオフィス？フリーダムエンド。このゲームのアルファ版でのフリーダムエンドの最初の姿でした。私そのエンド見てないです。モニタールーム、エレベーター。一時期モニタールームのエレベーターは上下に動き、上がフリーダム、下がカウントダウンとなっていました。プレイヤーが上が何で下が何であったのかを覚えるのが大変だったということで、これをやめ2つのエンディングを一緒にしました。カウントダウンルーム。フリーダムエンド。こちらはベータ版にあったフリーダムエンドです。カウントダウンディスク。ボタン押したら消えちゃった。スタンリーパラブル。
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
何笑ってんの？スタンリーのオフィス。スタンリーのオフィス。スタンリーのオフィス。へー。ちょっとずつ違うね、確かに。ラウンジ。オフィス。アパートメントタイム。電話上でアパートのエンディングへつながる選択肢、電話に出るまでの時間が15秒与えられていました。電話に出ないと違うエンディングになります。戻るんかーい。貨物リフト。 2つ目のバージョンでは機能的には最終段階のものと同じですが、実際に貨物が保管されている場所のようにしたいと思いました。なるほどね。貨物リフト。ゼンディングレバー。へえ。ダメじゃん。レバー引いてくれない。ゼンディング。ゼンディングモデル。へえ。よくわかんないです。戻ってきちゃいました。押させてくれないじゃない。あそこ何なんだろう。どうやったらいけるのかな。ラウンジ地下。
Would get him right back on track to where he was supposed to be in the story.
ナレーションアウトって。
Stanley walked over the bridge. When Stanley came to the lift, he traveled upward to the power source at the top of the facility to end this injustice forever.
使用されなかったセリフがここで聞けると。でもごめん、英語わかんない。なんかいろいろ見れるね。予告編。見てよ。あんま面白くないよこれ。面白そうなゲームに思えないよこの映像じゃ。だって椅子とロッカーしか映ってないもん。椅子とロッカーだけだった。このゲームは椅子とロッカーが出てくるゲームだってことが分かった。すごいゲームだね。知らんがな。18。まだ行ってないのは最初の分岐かな。こっちこっち。明るい。メンテナンスルーム。オフィス。コピー機。ファン。ラウンジ。あ、これは来たね。こっち行ったっけ。ナレーターのメール。JRPG 交戦地帯。エイリアンと戦場で戦うエンディング。面白。ナレーターと戦うことになる。へえ。ちょっと面白いと思った。やってみたいと思った。ウルトラデラックスの発表。あれでどこに向かえばいいんです？こっち？あ、こっちは行った。こっちか。The Stanley Parable on Off。 オンからオフ。
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail.
はい。
Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
あ、死んじゃった。死んじゃった。でも生き返ったから。
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right
あれ
office,
なん
is
かな
it?
くない？
Is this Stanley's office?
なんか違くない？あれ気のせいかな。いや気のせいかもしれない。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
あ
office.
でも下行ったらあれと同じだ。同じエンディングになるのも嫌だな。ここのパソコンも消せる？もしかして。ここにあったわ、3つ目。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean, he wondered. Desperate, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
落ち着いたニューエイジミュージックじゃないんだな。早く進みたかったから早く進めたのに早く進ませてくれないんだ。
Feeling
どういうことなん
soothed
ですか？
and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
そっちかーい。まったくもうお茶目だな、ナレーターは。よし行こうか。パンパンパン、びっくりするよ、もうそれやめようぜ。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control
はい、
Facility.
見つけてまっすぐに歩きました。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
あれだ。ああ、スターリンのオフィスだ。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
だってそれだったら私が結婚していることも嘘になっちゃうんじゃないですか。許せねえ。
But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machine...
バイバイした。バイバイしたらなんか音楽が流れた。
blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty.
はい。
Was it over?
終わった？
Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
いや、足踏み入れない。私は仕事に戻る。仕事に戻りたいです。ナレーターさん、仕事に帰らせてください。ナレーターさん、お仕事をさせて。お仕事したいよ。ちゃんと作られてるんだ。お仕事したい。お仕事したいな。待ってたらお仕事させてくれない？ここで座って待ってよ。あ、そうだそうだ。この綺麗な画面をスクショしよう。スクショは確か Windows G で、あ、ボタンが反応してる。これもしかしてで、スクリーンショット OK。 スクショしました。帰らせてよ。ダメかな。どうしよう。10分まで待ってみるか。あと2分。2分だけこの変わり映えしない映像をご覧くださいませ。さあねえ、仕事しに戻りたいんだけどな。ダメなんかな。許されない。許してほしいな。あと1分。だってね、何も分かってないよ。同僚どこ行ったのさ。 私それまだ分かってないんだよ。いやなんかナレーターが消したみたいなこと言ってたけど、信じられるわけないでしょ。私が信じられる本当をね、こう提示してほしいよね。それができないんだったら全部嘘だよ。嘘。あなたの言ってることは嘘ってことにして、私は仕事に戻りたいんだけどな。ダメかな。ダメですか？そうですか。10分になったので進みます。
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
幸せだったんか、スタンリー。そっか、お前が幸せならそれでいいかもな。はい。もういい。
I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh and laugh at the time I thought everyone had gone missing. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
見つからない。Monday.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
じゃあ行きません。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on
いいえ、
his
私は
left.
右だ。
This was not the correct way to the meeting
じゃあ
room,
俺はこの
and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
赤い扉を
Perhaps he
選ぶ。
wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
こっち？
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Warning. Don't jump.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
それは私が許さない。わかんない。
Now listen carefully, this is
俺は
important.
この赤い扉を
Stanley
選ぶ
walked
ぜ。
through the red door.
開かない。開かない。いいよ、じゃあ赤い扉選ぶよ。
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me.
いいよ、聞いてあげる。
Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop.
反対側行く。
We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
はい。はい。お、はい。はい。え、じゃあ逆行ってみる。はい。はい。 なんもないやんけ。真っ暗ですよ。
What do we want? What are we looking for?
なんだっけ。
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
すごい綺麗。ずっとここにいてもいいかもしれない。綺麗だね。なんか眩しいね。あ、消えちゃった。開かないね。今度はその緑のやつが上に行くのかな。ホタルみたいで綺麗だね。お前の方が綺麗だよ。知らねえわバカって。まだ時間かかる。なんかめっちゃ増えてんね。増えてるよね。まあいいや、帰ろう。
No, wait. Where are you going?
あ、ごめんなさい。じゃあ戻るね。
Right. Where were we?
わかんない。今度は赤い光が集まっていくね。なんか洗脳映像とかでこういうのこの部分使えそうだよね。目がチカチカするね。あ、いつの間にか緑なくなってるやん。すごい見づらくなってる。消えるまで待ったけど何かある。消えるまで待ったけど何かあるんですか、ナレーションさん。いいや、ないなら帰る。バイバイ。
Oh no! Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
はい、そうなんですか。
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
わかった、やめます。死にたくはないです。でもあそこ行って何ができるんです？ 戻ってきましたよ。
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
はい、嫌です。ちょっと物語を進めるためにもですね。
No! What do we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here.
はい、わかりました。じゃあ戻ります。
You are going to stay here, aren't you?
いいえ、別にずっといるわけではないです。
You heard me before, didn't you? You will die! What about this isn't getting through to you?
わかりました。じゃあやめます。あ、でも何も喋ってくれないんですか。じゃあ向こう行きます。ああ、ナレーターさんが先に進めてくれないから私死ぬことになっちゃったですよ。はあ、これも全部ナレーターさんのせいです。あなたが悪いです。
No! Oh, thank God you lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the other room?
戻りましたよ。
There. See? This is what you want. This is where we can both be happy. We really can. If we stop moving, we just have to stop moving.
はい。じゃあやめちゃダメですね。
Stanley, go back. There's nothing good that can come from this.
わかりました。じゃあわかります。でも動くのやめたらやめなきゃいけないって言ってたじゃないですか。私このゲームまだやめたくないんですよ。これでいいですか？喋ってくれない。そっか、じゃあもう一回降りるしかない。もう一回落ちるしかない。仕方ないことなんです。これはあなたが先に進めてくれないから、私はもう一回そこから飛び降りなきゃいけないんですよ。
No. No, no, what are you doing? Do you just not believe me? What can I say to convince you?
いや、別になんて言えば納得してくれるとかじゃあもう、いや、納得はしてますよ、最初からね。ずーっとしてます。ただですよ、あなたが物語を先に進めてくれないから、ずっとこの部屋にいろって言って、ずっとここから動かないでって言って、それでもあなたは先に進めてくれないから、私はもう一回飛び降りるしかないんですよ。やっぱ喋ってくれないじゃないですか。ナレーターさんさ、そういうとこだと思いますよ、ほんと。よくない、そういうのよくない。そういうのよくないので、もう一回落ちます。Goodbye, Justice.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
For me?
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me? Yes, perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you?
わかるかな？私にもわかります？その話。難しくないですか？難しい話は私苦手です。もう一回飛び降りてみますね。
No, perhaps not.
そうかな。ダメっぽいって言われたらさ、反抗したくなるじゃん。はい。ダメじゃない。ダメじゃないんですよ。ダメじゃないんですけど、あなたはダメじゃないと言ってくれない。じゃあダメになるしかない。バイバイ、慣れた。 3回目の飛び降りですよ。3回だぞ、3回。生きて帰れるわけがないだろう。バイバイスタンリー。
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But do you actually want to stay alive? Or are you just teasing
生
me?
きていたいですよ。
I wanted us to be happy here, Stanley. I really did.
はい。
I wish I still thought that was possible.
じゃあどうすればいいんですか？やっぱ何もしてくれないじゃん、嘘つき。何もしないことが幸せだって言うんですか？そんなわけないじゃないですか。人間は何かしてないと生きられないんですよ。わかります？ナレーターさん。ナレーターさんもしかして人間ではないのでは？では今から人間が一体どういうものなのかというのをナレーターさんに教えて差し上げます。スタンリーは心優しい青年なので、青年じゃないです。男性です。大人です。もういい年した大人です。妻もいます。妻もいますので、ここから飛び降ります。
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
はい、こんにちは。
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
もう思い出せない。ちょっと女子の部屋も。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
あ、ここのパソコンじゃない。
Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Kill surprise.
新しい通路だ。知らなかったな。
Whoops. Nope. Never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find
どんな答えが
out.
待っているんだ。じゃあ下に帰れ。あれ、帰れない。
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow! I'm bolted to the edge of my seat. Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
Loading.
Surely this time Stanley will walk forward into the spooky corridor, won't he? Did you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple with what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me.
ドキドキしちゃうね。ドキドキしちゃうので、もう一回戻りたいんだけど、一回見ないといけないみたいなので、スッてってスッてってスッてってスッてって。
Oh my god. It's the boss's office.
はい。
This absolutely changes everything for me. Give me a time out here for a minute while I process this. Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace this stunning revelation and to move forward with... No, wait. No, I need more time to process.
まだ必要。
All right. I have fully come... Of course. Going back down in the elevator. How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelatory Stanley's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling that has grown stale and repetitive.
OK。じゃあ、進もうか。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death. As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
落ちたのでもう一回行きましょう。
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
あれ、ここのパソコンじゃなかったのか。こっちだっけ。あ、こっちはボツだ。
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be
Escape.
your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't
で
let
す。私は死にます。残念やったな。でもパソコンあとどこだろう。
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
最後のパソコンがどれかわかんない。右行ったところにパソコンあったっけ。まだ見つけてないルートなのかなじゃあ。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
ここの左入ってないね。行ってみよう。
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
あ、正しいルートに戻っちゃった。
Yet there was not a single...
ちょっともう一回始めさせてください。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
あ、スターリーのパソコン見てない。正解だ。Welcome Stanley to heaven. ここはもしやボタンを押していいのか。経過で復活してるだと。負けねえ、負けねえ、俺は負けねえ。 楽しい。ボタン押せる、いっぱいボタン押せる、ボタン押すの楽しいよ。コントローラーじゃなくてマウスでやる。よいしょ。あ、もう届かない。あんまり意味ない。天国にはあるけど先がないのちょっとこれ何もないのもしかしてこの先は先ないのマジで先ないっぽいな。
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
新しいって意味でしょ。
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
そうなんですね。知らなかった。
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
はいはいはい。
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing
魅
adventure.
惑的な冒険の始まりだ。
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right,
Oh,
finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
一体どんな新しくて魅力的な冒険が待っているんだ。長いな。
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle?
Huh?
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
30回ちょっとのジャンプだけですか。一体次はどんな新コンテンツが待ってるんだろうな。
Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Thank you for
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always.
Hi.
What do you say, friend?
なんか違くない？おかしいな。今まで見たスタンリーとちょっと違う気がする。
Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something. Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. You're a dork anyway, so who cares? Oh, never mind. You're not a dog.
あ、そう。じゃあ。閉まるかな、これ。いやー、もう一回やり直すの嫌だな。仕方ない。言ってあげよう。
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past, and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Original. Good time. No, ないですわ。
Je suis dans la mémoire zone, seul sur la pluie des loups, et je n'attends plus que toi, mon amour.
これ人間か？ハムハムじゃ
C'est
ね
là, dans la mémoire zone, où je me remémore les jours.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com.
Hi.
James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
帰れはしない。下に進める。メモリーゾーンメンテナンス。これはファイア。ハッピーなボタン。
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone. To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
こっちは開かないんですか？開かない。通れないんですが。
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again.
だって通れないんですもん。じゃあ通らせてよ、ここは。ねえ。通れないから戻ります。
Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Bad.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
これは見ないんですか？じゃあこのグッドのやつを悪い意見だけ見てそれをバカにして終わり。さすがにそれはないんじゃないですか、ナレーターさん。
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
そうかもしれん。そうかもしれん。じゃあ海に行こうか。
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe... Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my words were moving. It was the vessel I needed, Stanley. Not the outcomes, not the story. None of that mattered.
押しちゃった。
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest.
お、ナレーターいなくなった。こっち。そのピッピうるさい。うるさいのでスキップじゃ。
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed. The end is never the end, 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 is never.
おお、水が染みてきてちゃう。どうすんべよ。おお、崩れた。悪いしね。じゃあスキップしよっか。光さしてる。もう一回スキップする？もう一回スキップする？やっちゃう。綺麗な植物だ。これが命。その命を奪い取る。本当に奪い取っちゃった。はい、スキップ。何も変わってないね。じゃあスキップ。ちょっと世界傾いちゃってるよ。スキップはスキップボタン押せなくなってる。なんてことだ。スキップボタン押せなくなってる。なんてことだ。もう助からないのか。埋まっとるやんけ。登れないやんけ。さあどこに行こうか。太陽に向かって走ろうか。あ、Never the end, never the end, never the end.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
What? あれ、こぼれてんじゃん。New contents. じゃあ。
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
エキサイティングなものを見せてくれると。一体どんなものなんでしょう。これはさっきのエレベーター？またジャンプするだけとかじゃないよね。
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
それは素晴らしい。でも
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
この意味がありそうで情けな棚とか。カラスやん。電源切れんじゃん。あー、ダ作。2はダ作。あー、もうこの時点でダ作。はー、ゴミ。いや、だってさ、パソコンの電源切れないんだよ。それはもうないよ。スタンリーパラブルじゃない、それ。
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
はい。Hear your name in the game. Enjoy. エピローグって書いてある。ちゃんとじゃあ見てから行こう。
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
はい。
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is.
なるほど。
Here, let's have you roleplay as Jim to really simulate the
はい。
full experience of this feature.
でも
Just
私
play
は
along. I promise
私
you'll
はスタ
love
ン
it.
リー
Okay, here we
私は
go.
スタンリー
Let's take a
なんだけど
deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim.
Jim.
Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name.
はい。
Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
恥ずかしいですね。
Maybe I'll only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable too. They would appreciate what I've created here.
このゲームをプレイしている人の名前を入れるボタン、ジャンプサークル、無限の穴。マッチ。
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it.
Hi.
Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
はい、ありがとうございました。じゃあ次行きましょうか。扉があったけど、こっちはない。帰らせてもらえないんですか？ Buckets. Just pick it up. 仕方ないな。
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable too.
はい。そうですか。じゃあバケツ持ったまま。
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That
No
really should be an award if it
Please, no
isn't already. Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Get well someday.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get well someday it is.
はい。それだけ。Get well someday.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on. Come now, you've already made your choice. It's true that you chose badly, but we all have to move on from our mistakes.
Free new easy achievement. Get here. ザ・スタンリー・パラブル2。コレクターズアイテム、フリー実績、無限の穴。ジャンプサークル。That's new。上か？セッティングワールドチャンピオン、無限の穴、フリー実績。セッティングワールドチャンピオン。開かない。ところでこのバケツはいつまで持ってるんです？ That's new。
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
はい。なんかある。キャッチーだね。インフィニティフォールだけは行きたくないな。セッティングワールドチャンピオンは開いてない。なんで開いてないんだよ。おかしいだろ。あ、EXIT あるやん。Can you finish him? Can you finish him?
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
いらないです。進めない。進めない。はい。進めない。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
You are here. ジャンプサークル、ディスマップ、フリーアチーブメント、ザボタンザセイズザネームオめんどくさいやつ。セッティングワールドチャンピオン。ザ・スタンリー・パラブル、リアス、なんて書いてるの？あ、バケツか。オフィス、ディコレーション、エピローグ、コレクティブル、インフィニティ・フォール、EXIT。帰るか。いや、ジャンプサークルだけ見ていこう。ジャンプサークルは N。分かりづらいな。
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's a... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle?
使い切りました。
Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
復活させろよ。おいおいおいおいおい。おいおいおいおいおい、おかしいでしょ。おいおいおいおいおいおい。はあ、帰ろう。もう見る必要ないよ。バケツだけもらっただけで。
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
ナレーターさこんなゲームじゃつまらないってわからないかな。これ何？
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind.
はい。
Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley?
何あれ？
This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything.
はい。
I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up.
はい。作ってみてください。
All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
お、遊べるんですか？あ、終わっちゃった。そんな選んじゃうに決まってるじゃん。ちょっと。仕方ないな。12時22分なので23分にして、はいはい。お、2のままじゃん。あ、ちょっとボイスがストップ。ちょっと待ってくださいよ。サウンドが、音がスピーカーじゃない。よし。変わってないやん。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
ついたてができてる。
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it?
おお、バケツあるじゃん。無視しよう。あれ、ここじゃなかったっけ、ニューコンテンツって。まあいいか。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
はい、戻りましたよ、正しいルートに。
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left. Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking?
何考えてんだよ。ちゃんと案内してくれよ。
Let's see, we went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now.
はい。
This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
本当に違うと思うな。こっちだよ。じゃあこっち。こっちじゃないの？こっちかも。戻ろうぜ。ダメみたいです。シャッターの裏。何これ？何これ？ファイヤー。
How about rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
リスタート。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
あ、バケツなくなってる。あ、ニューコンテンツもないじゃない。できてないじゃん。何も？うん？そうだよ、そうだよ。オッケー。戻ってきちゃった。これじゃない？で、こっち行って、こっち行って、こっち行って、で、こっち行って、
This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again.
そうでしょう
It'll be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
私楽しんでるのに。なんでリセットしちゃうんです。私楽しんでたのに。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
ちゃんとパソコンの電源切っていかないとね。扉がないじゃん。
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from.
はい。
Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
いいっすよ。こっちとか行ってみたいんですけど。ダメ。そっか。パソコンついてる？ついてない。
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way.
わかりました。
Trace our steps.
あれ？
Now this, well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct?
出口ない。
Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
イエーイ！勝ったー！ありがとう！イエーイ！
Paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay? I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
まあ、またリスタート。
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that? No, I'm done. We're leaving it up to the line from now on.
なんもないじゃん。帰ろう。扉閉めらんないじゃん。ラインに沿っていかなきゃいけないの？私は知ってるんだよ、次に正しい道が。こっちだっていうこと。だから私はこっち来たのに。なんで何もないんです。もう仕方ないなあ。ソリティア消せない。
See? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there?
はい。
Or to put it another way, is the story of no
さ
destination
あ。
still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right?
難しい話はわからないですよ。あ、ミュージック。あれ、あれこれもしかしてゲーム音声消えてない？
Cut the music, go back and look at that fern. Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything. Still missing the doors. Did we make a mistake following the line? Perhaps we could have found the story on our own.
What do you do, narrator-san? なんもないじゃないですか。もう一回進めって言うんですか？仕方ないですね。
Oh, no, not again, Line. How could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Okay. Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
This way. 窓から降りれたりしない。 ダメみたいです。あそこについてたら消さないとね。
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
ダメだ。戻ってみたくなっちゃうから。ちゃんと進もうね。
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
全部 TM いなくなっちゃった。
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits. Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes?
決定してるんですか。
Determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
はい。
And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait, you know. I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you do...
お、ゲームがリスタートした。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
バケツあるやん。
Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest, and this was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo. Good,
said the bucket. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend.
バケツ
So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's
これ
arms.
でずっ
How
と
deeply
一緒だよ
touching. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No.
No.
Said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good,
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him.
But the bucket-
It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
これもしかしてバケツがあるだけで何も変わりのないルートになる
All
の
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. "2845.
私は知らない。それを知らない。なんならキーパッドの存在にすら気づいていない。 ただただバケツとスピリチュアルな時間を過ご
Forgot,
し
but
てい
it
ただきます。
turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
えらいこっちゃ。
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful
ちょっ
figurines.
と待ってよ、スタンリーフィギュアちょっと集めたくなったじゃんかよ。これで終わろうかなとか思ってたのによ。もう12時過ぎてんのよ。さあ、どうするのかな。
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be
泣くなよ
fine.
バケツ。そんな顔するなよ。
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't
No!
accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that, but at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
せやろか。二人は幸せな鳥を見てよ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Find the next community meeting today in the meeting room.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
How we can find them? What we know, small floating object have appeared across the office. わかりません。Trust the completionist. フィギュアを見つけなければ。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
A large room, lots of boxes. Star something to with us.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy, it's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You
最
can't
後
hand
に
it
物
over.
置でずっと待って終わろうか。
We're getting into name calling now, it seems.
Oh,
Is this how
comment
low
to
the
that,
broom
comment to
closet
that.
has sunk that it has to resort to this stream of petty
Comment
insults
arigato.
simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it.
何をとりあえず私はバケツ
Okay, I've got you something which I think will help
Oh,
settle
wait,
this
no,
debate
come on,
once and for all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things. All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see, I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, "Ah, it's a bucket."
ああこれバケ
There
ツだ
really
わ
is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
いいねこの大きいバケツステッカーがどんどん貼られていくってことです
You know what? I could take the name calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us a silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
はいバケツとのストーリーを続けましょうここはいい物置だそしてこれはいいバケツだだから私はここにいるあんま喋ってくれなくなっちゃったナレーターさんナレーターさんほら私とバケツと物置だよねえねえねえねえねえ何も言ってくれないのステッカーくれたのは嬉しいけどさこれ物置ずっといってなんかあるんだろうかバケツだよバケツだよナレーターさんバケツだよ出たよ戻るけどちゃんと判定あるんだ なんもないんかな。なんもないのか。そっか。電気も消えない。バケツ物置。マジでなんもないのかい。ナレーターさん、ナレーターさん、なんか喋ってくれ。喋ってくれないね。ダメっぽいな。いっか。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
バケツでこの無限ループ行ってみようと思ったんで。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. Well, that's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
待って、見つけられなかった。
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
仕事前へ向かっていく。バケツ抱えながらバク転はもう強すぎんだろ。 身体能力どうなってるんや。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
マリエラ思ったよりアグレッシブ。
そう。ああ、そう。フィギュアも見つけたいんだよな。
シールが追加されたことでちょっと展開の芸術点高くなったのさ。
あれ、もしかしてシール追加されてなかったらそうでもなかったの？あ、でもシールついてんじゃん。
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good Stanley, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
なんか違う。
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere.
こんにちは。
The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before.
はい。
Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
これはちょっと楽しみ。
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue? Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers. Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
はい、何か諦めなくてはいけない。いや、アドベンチャーラインもバケツも諦めたくないんだけどな、そしたら。
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the
なん
bucket.
で？
That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
デストロイヤー。
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
そろそろバケツのことヒロインって思い始めてきた頃なの。
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does?
なんだ
Surely
っ
you
たら
don't need me to
スタ
spell
ン
it
リーの
out for
妻は
you.
バケツだったでしょ。
Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
いや、無理です。どうにか非常停止ボタン、非常停止ボタン
Now
は
listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the bucket destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable character reactors like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Buckets Destroyer.
The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
まあバケツの方が立派だけどな。そんな機械ごときがな、バケツに勝てると思うんじゃねえよ。バケレス君は死んだよ。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
新エンディングトゥブーエンドを見に行こう。でも結局これ見つかってないんだよね。私英語読めないからさ、これどこにあるのかわかんないのよ。赤と青のやつ、扉はなんか見た気がするけど。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Google 翻訳先生だ。
Google 翻訳先生。
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs. What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Yosh, フィギュア1個ゲット。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
デモで出てきた8というだけの8っていうだけのボタンを押す。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
言ったっけ？言ってない気がするな。言ってみたい気はするけどな。いや、最初に決めたことをね、守ろう。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
そういえばスキップボタンは実装しなかったのか。ナレーターさん、スキップボタン実装しようぜ。あれだって年数単位でスキップできる。
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
泣かないで、バケツくん。
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the
ナレ
first
ーター
place?
君よりバケツ君の方が大
These
事。
questions
バケ
raced
ツちゃんかもしれない
furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket.
No!
He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one
ナレー
except
ター君も
for
バ
the
ケツちゃ
bucket.
んを持てばいいのでは？
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place.
そういえばここに B
And
の
as
ボ
the
タンってあった
cold
りする
reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
4
For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking
システム
down
を
the
破壊してや
system.
る。システムを
When at last they came to the source,
なんかナレーター君喋ってたけど。
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it
ま
over?
た
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the
すごい
end.
意味のないことして
True,
る
it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty,
バケツ君
until
バケツ
finally
君
the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even
Oi,
the facility
mate,
itself
mate, mate,
recognized the incredible calming presence of the
待って待って
bucket,
待って待って
needed the
おい
soothing
おいおいおい
warmth of the bucket.
俺とバケツの中を引き裂こうっていうのか
The bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms.
バケツ
Not while this building has anything to say about it.
ダメ
Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley
そんな
gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
バケツとともに解放されるエンドはないのか。ちょっと
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
どうしようかな。じゃあバケツ君今日はどこ行きたい？右行く？左行く？
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the
左だね。
door on his left.
バケツ君と愛の逃避行をするためにエスケープする。デートデート。いやもうこれは実質デートよ。広い部屋。Lots of boxes。箱の中？あ、ここに写真載ってる。 がこれ見つけたところかな。
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers.
実際混乱エンドに向かった時のモニターは
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
じゃあ次はバケツ君とスケッチを。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent
そ
death.
んなわけないだろう。最後まで添い遂げるの間違い
The
だ。
door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
そう愛、やっぱ愛はね、何者にも勝るんですよね。いくよ。だ。バチバチバチ。あ、バケツくん。
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had
無意
turned
味なわ
out
け
to
ないじゃないか。
be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket. But what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Ow.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death.
ガコン。こっち行くしかないか。
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to
あれ、待っ
behold.
て、バケツが手元にない。バケツ大展示会へのご来場をお待ちしております。あなたは今知識の崖に立っています。人の精神はたびたびバケツのように空っぽになり、洞窟のような虚無感さえあります。しかしあなたの目の前にある展示物を使うことで、心は豊かに満たされ具体化されます。このバケツの知識とその歴史は私たちが持つ唯一の真実の知識なのです。ここであなたが学んだことを世界に持ち出すつもりですか？この展示の情報について課題があるかもしれませんが、心を開いてくれますか？あなたの生活やあなたの大切な人をこの展示をきっかけに変えられますか？もしくはあなたは目を背け、無知と暗闇の中で今までと同じように生きますか？バケツくん、そんなすごいやつだったのか君。
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
気高い存在だったんだ、バケツくんって。 あ、行かないで。置いてかないで、バケツくん。僕と一緒にいるんじゃなかったのかい、バケツくん。止まってるよね、あれ。止まっちゃった。2つの取っ手付きバケツ。このバケツは取っ手が2つ描かれています。このようなデザインは今まで現実には一度も前例がなく、危険すぎる無謀な実験とされています。毎年それを試みただけで十数人が処刑されています。なんて恐ろしいんだ。無数のバケツだ。25個のバケツ。この写真は史上最多である25個のバケツをカメラに収めたものです。この写真家は一度にこれほどたくさんのバケツを目の当たりにするという幸福感から数週間にわたり緊張性ショックを患いました。マジか。地獄バケツ。地獄バケツのレプリカ。こう見よう。中世紀、この強力な魅力を持つバケツの支配をめぐり、数十カ国が戦争を引き起こしました。10億人ものが命を落としたにもかかわらず、誰もバケツを支配できないという事実だけが残されています。恐ろしいや。ストレスバケツ、解説なし。アナロジー。ホラー穴の絵。バケツが人類誕生より前にすでに存在していたことは知られているものの、いつ頃から存在していたのかは知られていません。この洞窟の絵は古代人によりバケツの実用的な使い方の発見について書かれたもので、この時すでにバケツは数千年前から存在していたようです。この絵の注目すべき点は、バケツ自身が使うことを許可し、人類がその宝を使うのにふさわしいと判断されていたという点と言えます。なるほど。バケツは水を受け止めることができるというのか。なんということだ。素晴らしい。
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
それだけじゃないみたい。ぶら下げられたバケツ。この作品は人間とバケツとの必要な関係性を象徴しています。どれほどバケツが我々の手中にあろうとも、まだまだ把握しきれていない部分がたくさんあるのです。この距離は私たち自身のために必然的にあるのです。いける！いけたわ。
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible
間違いを
wrong.
正す。
Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as
バケ
ruler,
ツくん？
as
裏
leader,
切るの
as
バケツく
commander of a new
ん？
world,
そんな
a new
バケツくん？
vision.
バケツくん？まさかの裏切りにあったんだけど。
エスケープナレーターさんノーマルだと捨てろって言われるのにバケツだと潰せって言われるのかさ。
やば。マジか。バケツを君主とするためにスタンリーを殺せって。バケツ君に裏切られると思わなかったんだけど、マジかー。 ショックだ。そろそろやめるか。バケツくん持ってこれできないかな。できないかもな。
でも共に潰されてくれたってことはバケツくんとの愛はあったと思うよ。
そうだったのか、バケツくん。というわけで、たくさんのボタンを押せる素晴らしい天国にスタンリーがやってきたところで、今回の配信はこれで終わろうかと思います。ご視聴くださってコメントもくださってありがとう。ちょっとこのゴールデンウィークはいろんなゲームをやろうと思ってね。でスタンリーの日本語化が出たっていう、日本語化字幕が出たっていうのを見て、まずはスタンリーからだったよ。
天国にバケツくんと入れたら真の天国かもしれない。
確かに。でもここバケツくん連れてこられない。
お疲れ様でした。
お疲れ様でした。ありがとう。配信をご覧いただきありがとうございました。またのご視聴お待ちしております。バイバーイ。See you.